Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's show. Up first, on the hazardous weather graphic, there's a frost advisory out for the eastern North Gulf Coast, Yakutat, as well as the northern Panhandle, and that's for, obviously, frost, as the advisory says. Frost advisory is for frost. Temperatures are expected to drop in some areas down to 30 degrees. Other areas may drop actually in the upper 20s. Other areas will stay warmer, but 30 about covers it, and that's a frost advisory, and that's for 30 degrees is not a killing freeze. 26 Fahrenheit is and down below, from 26 Fahrenheit on down is considered a killing freeze. So anyway, that's out here for early May for the eastern North Gulf Coast, northern Panhandle. And the tripod on the Tanana River at Nenana continues to stand this afternoon. This is a recent shot I just pulled off the web, and so may go into May 4th if you're tracking that. Anyway, from there, going on to satellite imagery, you can see a front that's pushed eastward and weakened into Canada there. It looks like another weak wave coming northward, spreading some clouds, maybe a few showers into the southern Panhandle. But today, much drier today over the southeast coast than it was yesterday. Then a lot of moisture coming northward into southern Alaska. That's what brought the rain and snow in Anchorage today. Measurable snow, actually, and kind of off and on in the afternoon, though, but that hard to deal with today. Anyway, that's moving through, and you can see some breaks farther down the inlet there, south of the Forelands into just north of Kamishak Bay. Then another system bringing some clouds in toward Kodiak Island. Not particularly strong, but that'll spread some rain up into Kodiak and rain over the Alaska Peninsula today, and tapering off to showers over the eastern Aleutian. Just some widely scattered showers over the central Aleutians with a few sun breaks, and then cloudy skies out towards Shimia. And still some flurries occurring up over the northern Bering Sea, light snow, areas of fog, St. Lawrence Island up through the Bering Strait coast. As you can see on the chart today, snow showers scattered across the Brooks Range, areas of low clouds, fog, and flurries for the Arctic coast. Rain and snow showers, western interior areas, and that mostly falling as snow over Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula, in toward the south, or up toward the Susitna Valley today. Areas of rain mixed in as well. Rain and snow on the North Gulf Coast, showers tapering off over the southern Panhandle, and then that system spreading rain up toward Kodiak Island with showers back toward the eastern Aleutians, the weak low near Unalaska Island, and a trough out to the west, really not producing too much weather. And that's going to be the case tonight. Weak high pressure building over the Bering Sea. Really, that high is more of just an area is there due to a lack of storminess rather than a presence of high pressure at those values. Weak low there south of the Aleutians with the trough keeps a chance of snow showers in all along the Aleutian chain. A little bit better chance on the Pacific side, or the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. And then periods of rain, light rain, fog, drizzle, Kodiak Island tonight. Chance of snow showers, Bristol Bay up into the Kuskokwim Valley to the lower Yukon River Valley and the Lotto Hills. And chance of snow showers or rain and snow showers continues for areas of south central Alaska and the North Gulf Coast. And for Thursday, partly to mostly sunny for the Panhandle, especially in the afternoon hours, and about the same for the Copper River Basin, maybe a few more clouds, but dry conditions there that'll extend up into the central interior and actually northward up toward the eastern Brooks Range. Chance of showers over the Brooks Range, but dry for the eastern Arctic coast. And then the trough keeps a chance of showers or rain and snow showers or snow showers from Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula right up the west side there all the way to the western Arctic coast, and mostly cloudy with a chance of rain or snow showers south central Alaska. And also a chance of some shower activity just skirting the central Aleutians or the very weak trough. Really, winds will be quite light over the Aleutians and entire Bering Sea tomorrow, as well as the eastern North Gulf Coast and the interior. And so areas of low clouds and fog will probably persist over the northern Bering Sea up to the Bering Strait areas. And then for the day on Friday, low pressure just east of Kodiak, close enough to keep cloudy skies and a chance of light rain, showers, or drizzle. Maybe some periods of fog going there with the light wind conditions expected. And partly sunny with a chance of showers in the form of rain or snow over the mountainous terrain of southern Alaska, but definitely a little bit better. And shower chances, especially the southern panhandle, that trough extending in from Canada over the southern areas, but just a chance of showers over the Copper River Basin, again, over the mountainous terrain in the afternoon. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny over the interior, but that trough out west keeping a chance of showers going, a little narrower band now from the western Arctic coast all the way down into Bristol Bay. High pressure holds over the Bering Sea, and the next front spreads rain and wind. Small craft advisory level winds, the way it looks at this time, into the western Aleutians. Well, it's tonight in the 30s most everywhere except the Copper River Basin, maybe the upper 20s, especially in McGrath-Nicolai. Highs tomorrow 45 to 50, in the 50s for the Panhandle, followed by lows in the 30s for the southeast coast, 20s and 30s elsewhere, mid-30s Kodiak Island, followed by highs rebounding upper 40s to lower to mid-50s here for much of southern Alaska, and mid-40s for the Bristol Bay area, and lower to mid-50s for the Panhandle. Up north, lows in the 20s, teens for the Arctic coast, highs tomorrow 50 to 55 from Fairbanks and Chuck-Itzig over toward Eagle down to Chicken, and 20s lower 30s out toward the Seward Peninsula and the the Arctic coast. Friday morning lows, teens for the North Slope out to the Arctic coast, 20s in the interior, followed by highs edging up to the upper 50s, pushing 60 near Eagle, and that's Friday afternoon. Otherwise in the 50s, so looking a little better in the eastern interior, even in the Brooks Range above freezing, mid-20s for the Arctic coast, and for lows tonight, mid-20s southwest coast Pribilofs, 30 to 35 for the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, highs upper 30s, lower 40s for the Aleutians, mid-30s for the Pribilofs, and lower 30s for the southwest coast, upper 20s St. Lawrence Island, followed by lows 18 there for St. Lawrence Island, 10 degrees warmer for the Pribilofs, 30 to 35 for the Aleutians, upper 20s to lower 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Friday afternoon, near freezing for St. Lawrence Island, mid-30s for the Pribilofs, and 40 to 45 for the Aleutians, some areas staying in the upper 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, Bristol Bay, 40 to 45, and lower 30s for the southwest coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for, Thursday morning, IFR, Arctic coast, down across the western Brooks Range, Noatak Valley, into the Seward Peninsula, western Norton Sound, and a couple areas IFR over the southwest interior there, and down along the Alaska Peninsula, and also along and south of the central and eastern Brooks Range. Mostly VFR, eastern interior, north and west of the Alaska Range. Marginal VFR for the North Gulf Coast, and some marginal VFR along the central and north coast of the Panhandle, Kodiak Island, marginal, as well as the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And for the afternoon, Bering Sea still mostly marginal VFR. Aleutian, same thing. Unmak Island might see some VFR, as well as Sandpoint, maybe Chignik there in the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, marginal VFR up through the western interior. Southern Cook Inlet from Kodiak Island on up along western Cook Inlet to the mountains, and marginal VFR most of the Kenai Peninsula, all of Prince William Sound, on up into the Talkeetnas, western Copper River Basin, good VFR in the central and eastern interior, as well as the eastern and central North Slope and Arctic coast. Friday morning, IFR for the Arctic coast into the western North Slope areas. And again, the lowest conditions over the western part of the state. Most of VFR will be found over the central and eastern interior Alaska areas into the Yukon, as well as the Panhandle, looking really good. The North Gulf Coast, northern Cook Inlet, VFR. Still marginal for the southern Kenai Peninsula, Seward, Homer, Seldovia, and maybe Anchor Point. Shelikof Strait, IFR, and some IFR over the southwest interior. interior. No change out west, mostly marginal VFR anywhere over the Bering Sea, Aleutians through the Bering Strait to the Chukchi Sea. Friday afternoon shows some improvement out there along the southwest coast, southern Seward Peninsula into Togiak Bay and areas there in Nunivak Island, VFR. Mostly marginal again for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Kodiak Island, occasional marginal VFR there into Bristol Bay, and good VFR, south central Alaska, northward into the central and eastern interior, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast, and still mostly VFR for the southeast coast. Passes Anatuvik and Adigan, occasional marginal VFR for the day on Thursday. Lake Clark and Merrill, mostly marginal for Thursday on either entrance. Rainy, same forecast, marginal VFR, but I think windy will be open most, if not all, the entire day with VFR flying. And Isabel, marginal VFR to start, and then becoming VFR later in the day. And Mentesta, good VFR there. Tanita, back to marginal. Portage, marginal. And Chilkoot and White, VFR. Looking at the freezing levels, 2,000 feet well south of the Aleutians and well south of the Gulf of Alaska, but upper level ridge over western Canada shifting eastward a little bit, so now we're down to about 2,000 to 6,000 feet over the central and southeastern panhandle. Otherwise, at the surface for tomorrow morning, fairways in over southern Alaska. And for icing, areas of isolated moderate rime icing, possible Kodiak Island and along the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, and then up into the southwest interior to the lower Yukon River Valley areas, as well as southern Cook Inlet, possible icing up into the southern Kenai Peninsula and western Prince William Sound. But really, even in this area, it doesn't look like anything too significant. And so moving on to the jet stream, main jet still south of the forecast area, but just grazing the eastern Aleutians there with the stronger winds just to the south. Otherwise, westerlies 65 to 75 knots across the central Bering Sea into the Alaska Peninsula. 90 knots off to the east of the Panhandle. And for 9,000 feet, really pretty light winds at this elevation. Southeasterlies maybe up to 20, possibly 25 knots, clipping the southern Kenai Peninsula. Southeasterlies and southwesterlies up over the northern upper Yukon Valley areas and the northwest coast. 3,000 feet, northwest, north-northwest, 35 knots across the Alaska Peninsula. East-southeast, 45 knots, Barren Islands into Kamishak Bay and Lake Iliamna. Moving on to turbulence, not too bad. Isolated moderate, south central Alaska, Cook Inlet, down to Iliamna Lake, Kamishak Bay, as well as the Alaska Peninsula. And after the break, I'll return with the Marine Force.
Where are we at today? Follow Ken around has been the name of these videos. So we're at the National Tsunami Warning Center. What a treat I have for everybody today. And people don't think about it. National Weather Service. It's more than weather. We're water. We're space weather. We're tsunamis as well. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Summer, how you doing? So introduce yourself to everybody and tell everyone what you do here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Summer Ollendorf. I'm the Science and Operations Officer here at the National Tsunami Warning Center. So I'm keeping an eye on all of the data that comes into our center, making sure we're using the best science to look at it, figure out what to do. And I also keep our staff sharp and well-trained and ready to respond to any event we might have.
And I know you do a great job because in my time here over the last hour or so, super sharp folks, absolutely amazing to be able to talk to everybody here. So here's the deal. You have an earthquake. All right, so something happened. We've got something going on. So take me through the process. What happens? This could be in the middle of the night. You're on shift. It's not like you have days looking for a hurricane or a week, right? It's not like you're looking for a severe weather event 2-3 days ahead of time. This just happens, right? Everybody, it just happens. Earthquakes just happen. So there's no notice.
Right.
What do you do? Something bad happens.
So if the earthquake is here, first of all, we're dropping, covering, and holding on during the shaking itself. But afterwards, we're responding, and we're trying to figure out where the earthquake is, how big it is, and then what that means for the tsunami hazard. So we use these systems to look at the earthquake data. Our systems are set up so that we know, based on the earthquake information, pretty quickly exactly what that's going to mean as far as what alert areas we want to set up for any tsunamis. And so we want to make sure that we're confirming with our coastal emergency managers and the public that we get out the messages that we need to quickly, and that those are received and understood.
Okay, so we talked through the earthquake, and why are you so passionate? What brings you to work every day?
I love using science to actually help people. So this is my way of knowing about something right when it's happening and using those logic and reasoning skills to actually make decisions to help keep people safer.
That's amazing. I love that. So, okay. All right, so we have an earthquake. We got work to do, so we're going to go this way. So we've got an earthquake. We're going to talk about how we're going to detect a tsunami, what are we going to use for tools, how we're going to do that, and who are we bringing in?
We're bringing in our lead duty scientist.
Come on. All right, so first of all, name and introduce yourself to everyone, and what do you do here?
Hi, Kara Sterling. I am a lead duty scientist here at the National Tsunami Warning Center. I spend a lot of my time working on improvements to the forecasting model and also coming up with new ways that we can provide impact decision support for our partners during tsunami events. So there's a lot of information. We get it really quick in the first 30 to 60 minutes and trying to condense that down into something that we can provide you to make decisions with. So.
And I don't have to tell you, because you already know, right? Alarms and bells, maybe Summer's yelling from across the room. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden there's an earthquake.
Yes.
What are you doing? What are you doing? What do we do?
We've got a big event. We want to know what the possible impacts are. One of the first things we look at are expected history and our early forecast. So we will actually take that event. You can see over here we've modeled a 9.3, which is a really large earthquake off of Kodiak. Something like that would put our entire coastline from Aleutians, Alaska, all the way down to California, Mexico in a warning. So that's a big event.
And there isn't one.
Yeah.
So those watching, calm down. We're just exercising here. Okay.
You see a lot of red. It's not real.
Okay.
We can show kind of where the majority of the energy will be directed for something like this as well. And we're going out with a message letting everyone know that we have issued a warning. I've pulled up one of the messages here. So we review that, we send it out, and it goes out across the lines, all sorts of ways people will get the message. But then we're forecasting. We're looking at water levels, coastal tide gauges, offshore deep pressure sensors. We're bringing that in real time, and we're adding it into our forecast. Anything that goes above 1 meter for an estimated wave height, you're going to be in a warning. So we're constantly looking at what we can see for coastal water levels and out in the deep ocean to see how big that tsunami is and how it's propagating. We do use 2 forecast models, a simple one over here called the Alaska Tsunami Forecast Model, and then over here we have SIFT. This model especially has some neat additional products. So with the SIFT forecast, not only can we see wave heights and the directionality, but we are also looking at expected flooding for a local area, as well as the time series. That time series in relation to the tides at that area, and also tsunami currents, where you might have hazardous harbors and where navigation will be difficult.
And if you got a current, a boat might not be able to get away or because of travel in particular situation. So amazing amount of science here. I'm going to ask the same question that I asked Summer. I mean, look at this, the science that you do, and you turn it to service, which saves lives. What brings you to work every day? What's your passion?
I love that it's applied science, and that I feel like I'm doing something that makes a difference and that I'm giving back. So
it's amazing. I just got goosebumps. So okay, we had earthquake. Running models, looking at how much water, analyzing things, look at the energy propagation, looking at the water levels are going to be. Wait, we got to let people know. We got to let people know. So what products are issued? We're going to do that next. We're going to come right over here. So yeah, first of all, introduce yourself and what do you do here?
Hi, I'm Ben Heath. I'm a duty scientist here, so I stand watch and look out for earthquakes or any other activity that might indicate tsunamis.
So I'm an emergency manager somewhere. I'm the general public. I'm at home. All this analysis, amazing science has gone on. What products are issued? How do I know something bad's about to happen?
So if there was a big earthquake, we'd have 4 different kinds of alerts that we could put you into. The first one would be a warning. That means get to high ground immediately. You follow evacuation signage. This means we're expecting something, inundation of about 1 meter. We're expecting waves of about 1 meter or more. So that's something that is very impactful. We want you to act immediately. We could also put you in an advisory. That means stay out of the water. Stay away from shore. We're expecting something in the 1 to 3 feet category, so it's something that could have impacts, but isn't massive impacts or massive waves. We also have a watch. That means prepare to take action. Tsunami is possible. It might be several hours away, but we want you to prepare now so you can act if you need to. So that's just a prepare stage. And then if it was a moderate-sized earthquake that we really don't think is going to produce a tsunami, we're going to put out an information statement. That might be, hey, I felt something. Is this something I should be worried about? This is no tsunami is expected, but you might have felt that.
That's amazing. So really connecting the science to the service part of it. Same question as I've already asked. What brings you to work every day? What makes you so passionate about this here?
I really like making these decisions with limited information and then trying to talk people through those decisions and help them understand what I know in real time.
It's really important to meet everybody here because most of the time we don't think of tsunamis as part of what we do. It's a big part of our mission at the National Weather Service. And to think about this, I want to reiterate this once again. It's really important. Back at the Hurricane Center when I was there, I mean, we see it a week ahead of time, right? So we have some preparation time. I think that's important. Severe weather event, we've had quite a bout of tornadoes. We start looking at those outlooks 3-4 days a week ahead of time as well. This just happens. So it was really important to come here, introduce everybody to what's going on. Think about it, from 0 to 100 miles an hour, just like that. Wait, they're faster than that. How fast do they go? Wait. How fast do they go?
They go airplane speed in the deep ocean.
Okay, just like that. So we're going from 0 to airplane speed, just like that type of thing. So I wanted to introduce to the amazing people at the National Tsunami Warning Center, an amazing bunch of scientists, and providing that service to save lives. And I think it's amazing that we really look at this and just realize they're 24/7 thinking about keeping you safe from tsunamis. So this has been Ken Graham live right here in Palmer at the National Tsunami Warning Center.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Coastal water forecast on the south coast of the Panhandle. West winds 10 to 15 knots, and then becoming variable, and then southeast at 10 knots for the north coast. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, looking at a northwest breeze at about 10 knots. Stevens Passage, northwest wind 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Clarence Strait, northwest winds 10 knots, seas 2 feet. And for the day on Friday, Clarence Strait still looking at northwest wind at 10, north at 10 for Stevens Passage, north winds 10 knots for the northern inside waters. Seas throughout the area of the inner channels running 2 to 3 feet. For the south coast, south winds 15 knots, southeast winds 15 knots for the north coast, and seas everywhere 7 feet. Prince William Sound, Thursday, east at 15, seas 3 feet, east 20, there for the North Gulf Coast with 6 to 7 foot seas, east winds 30 knots with 9 foot seas, and small craft advisories also for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay zones, east winds 30 knots, seas under 10 feet. And for Cook Inlet, northeast winds 20 to 25 knots with 4 to 5 foot seas. And for Friday, for Cook Inlet, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, seas about 3 feet. Northwest winds 10 knots with 2 foot seas for Prince William Sound. And variable winds 10 to 15 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast, north at 15 for the western North Gulf Coast. Barren Islands, north winds at 20 knots, and northwest at 15 for Kamishak Bay. Kodiak Island, we've got east to southeast winds at about 15 to 20 knots with 4 to 8 foot seas. And for Bristol Bay, north winds at 25 knots. The Alaska Peninsula, northwest winds 20 to 25 knots with seas running 4 to 6 feet. And then moving ahead to Friday, For the Kodiak Island area again, we've got northwest winds 15 to 20 knots, with Bristol Bay looking at a west wind at about 20 knots with seas running 3 feet there. Otherwise, the Alaska Peninsula, northwest winds for Friday at 15 to 20 knots. Pretty low seas on the Pacific side, only 2 to 3 feet. And the Bering Sea side, seas running 3 feet. And same thing for Bristol Bay. And for the eastern Aleutians for Thursday, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots with seas running 5 to 6 feet. Central Aleutians, variable winds 10 to 15 knots with seas 3 to 6 feet. And variable winds 10 to 15 knots for the western Aleutians with seas at 5 to 7 feet. For Friday, western Aleutians, small craft advisory, south to southeast winds increasing to 25 to 30 knots, seas building to 8 feet. Light variable winds for the central Aleutians, and Unalaska Island looking at north winds at about 15 knots with 3 to 4 foot seas. And for the Pribilof Islands and St. Matthew Island, northwesterlies tomorrow at 15, northwest 25 for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island. And for the Yukon Delta coast, north at 15, St. Lawrence Island looking at a north wind at 10 knots with 3 foot seas, and Norton Sound at about 10 knots from the northeast. And then for Friday, for the Yukon Delta coast, northwest 15 knots, same forecast for St. Lawrence Island, northwest 20 there south of Nunivak Island, Pribilof's northwest at 15, and southwest 15 for St. Matthew Island. Up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, southwest winds at 10 knots, west winds 5 knots for the central coast, really laid down there. Not too bad even on the east side there, variable at 10, and 10 to 15 knot westerlies for the Chukchi Sea. And for Friday, western Arctic coast, light winds from the southwest at 5 knots. Variable winds, light variable winds for the Chukchi Sea. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east to southeast at 10 knots. For tonight, front keeps it wet over Kodiak Island, rain and snow along the North Gulf Coast into south central Alaska. It can be more showery as the farther north inland you go. Trough brings some snow showers up to the northwest, and rain and snow showers over the western interior. Dry in the east, stays wet over Kodiak Island. And for Friday, still at pesky trough, keeping a chance of snow showers over the western part of the state, but dry over the interior, especially.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.